steady, go. All right, hello everyone. Hold on, gotta close the door. Hey, today we're going to create an add-on in Godot. You can create plugins in the editor just the same way you make your games, and that's what we're going to do. So I arrived a little late. Let me just get the files so we can work on it. We're going to create a tool to make tiles. I'm going to grab all of this, create a new folder, call it tiles. So it's going to take a folder, grab a list of assets, and create a tileset base scene for us. The goal here is really to show you that, for one, when you create an add-on in Godot, it works exactly like the way you create your game, so it's quite convenient. For the assets, I'm using the tiles that you can find on GitHub. I think it's called Tileset Template or something like that. It was a template for tiled map editor. And in this version, to start with, we'll have the individual tiles and we'll generate nodes in a scene for that. So let me create a new scene. Just have a node parent, node 2D, node. So we need, all right, so it's going to be tiles, save it, there we go. So we have a base to work with, we have a scene in which we will generate our tiles, and a folder with all the image files. Now it's time to create the add-on. So the first step to do this is to create folders, because Godot is looking for a folder in your project called add-ons. Let me check. Yes, that's it. So you need a folder like this, and in this folder, each subfolder is going to be a separate add-on. So let's add one. I've seen people, you can name the folder however you'd like, but I've seen people write their name dot the name of the add-on. So Tileset Maker, Tileset Maker. All right. Once you have this folder, inside of it, Godot is looking for a file called plugin.cfg, like plugin configuration. So you must go in your file manager and create a file for it, because Godot cannot create it for you. So it's plugin.cfg. Let's see if it added .txt in the end. Hold on, I'll grab it into directory opus. There you go, yeah. Appends txt at the end. All right, and you've got to open this in any editor of your choice. I'll go with, normally Emacs should be open. Let's see, yes. It's a bit long, it's the first start of the day. Did you open? Yeah, okay. All right, so we have an empty file for now. And for the format, we're going to look at the docs. So I can show you all this. Okay. I think it's in, I don't remember, editor plugin. Making plugins, that's the page. So here's what your plugin.cfg file has to look like. You need to create any style file with a plugin category, and you need a name, description, author, version, and a script that's the most important part. It's the script that Godot will look for to initialize your add-on, or to load it if you want. So we'll start with this, back to Emacs. I'm going to paste this and name everything. So we have Tileset Maker. We're going to generate a tileset scene from a folder. Doesn't matter too much, and version will be 0.1. And the script, you can call it however you'd like. You'll have to put it in your folder. In this case, gdquest.tilesetmaker. The script, where we can call it main or init or plugin.gd, for example. However you'd like, again, doesn't matter. So you save this. You can't see the file in Godot, but if I go back to my file manager, you can see I'm in the add-on folder and I have my plugin config. Now we need to create this script. So again, I'll go back to my file manager for now. It's a bit easier this way. I can't create a pure file. Strange. So it's gonna be plugin.gd, and that's it. So that way we don't have to create the script by attaching it to a node. We directly have it in our folder. It's completely empty. And now it's going to be, let me check. We have to add two things for the script to work as an add-on. First, it must use the tool keyword. When you write this, you have to put it at the top of a script, and Godot knows that it can run the script in the editor. So an add-on is a GDScript file that runs in the editor, and it has some extra features using the editor plugin class. So it has to extend the editor plugin. That's it. That will allow it to register in the project settings. Okay. So any script, anything you make in Godot, you can add this tool keyword to run it in the editor, be it in the 2D or 3D view, doesn't matter. And you can use regular GDScript to modify nodes. You can modify their properties. When you do something, you can assign keyboard shortcuts, you can listen to input, and so you can create scripts if you want, like tools that only run in the editor doing this. But if you use the add-on folder, you go one step further because you can share it on the asset store. So you have it here, the asset lib tab. You can put it online if you put it on GitHub. And editor plugin also allows you to add your interface for your add-on to the editor. I'll show you this. We'll look at the editor plugin class. And it has some functions. You can see here the add control ones. Add control to the bottom panel. That's the bottom panel animation and all that stuff. You can add the control to a container. So your container may be the toolbar at the top or something like this. Add control to docs. You can add a new Docker anywhere on the interface. So that's what we're going to do first for our add-on, and I'll show you how to do all this. Before that, let me just open a little tool. I forgot about it. It's called Keycasto, an open source tool to display. Let's see. Yeah, it's in the bottom. I guess I can put it here on the right. Let's see. Because I think there's the webcam around here. Okay, let's save. See, it's working. All right. By the way, I should look at the chat. Hey, Dan. So, the first step with our plugin is to initialize it and then clean it up. So for that, we're going to use functions that you may not use too often in GDScript, but they are useful regardless. It's the enter tree and exit tree virtual methods. So you're used to calling ready, for example. I'll stop Keycasto for now. So ready is called after the node, a given node was initialized, but more importantly, all of its children were initialized and ready was called on them before that. Enter tree is called right when this node enters the node tree. So You can't see it for the Godot editor, but it's a node tree just like your game. So you have this function, enter tree. We're going to initialize our code in there and copy, paste it, exit tree. It doesn't take any argument. And here we're going to, let's say, initialize/load the interface. And in this one, we're going to clean up and load the interface. It's that simple. So let's create the SAID interface. And for this, what are we going to do? A scene. Very simple. So I'll create a new scene and add, what do we start with? We're going to add a panel to this. And the panel's layout will use the full rectangle. So let me explain how this is going to work. If you've never done interface in Godot, now in Godot 3 you can use the layout menu to directly set the anchors of a given control, so a given UI element, and it will resize and reposition automatically now compared to the anchors only menu that was the behavior you had in 2.1. So when we use full rectangle, it means you want the panel to take all the space that's available. We're going to use it. Then if the menu or the dock or something like that is small, it's only going to be as big as its parent, as the container it's in, okay? But we are defining rules for the way the box resizes, the panel, and the way it anchors relative to its parent. So we're going to have a vertical box container in which we'll have two buttons, one to create the tiles. We could have one to delete the tiles, maybe if we want to regenerate them, and one to add collision to selected tiles. Okay, so let's create a VBox container. Containers are convenient because they automatically arrange all the controls, all the UI elements that are inside of them. I'll show you that. I'm first going to create two buttons like this, and my VBox container, I will make it full rectangle as well. You can see that the buttons stretch to fit the parent, and their alignment is going to be begin. So they're going to be at the top of the container. You'll see when we add them to a dock, we'll put it right there in the bottom left. The buttons will be inside the dock, okay? But on top of that, I want us to have some margin container as well. And our margin container will use the full rectangle as well. But going down to the custom constants in the inspector, we'll set some margins, maybe 20 pixels should be okay. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think there's still no way to change multiple properties at the same time, right? Because that's typically one of the cases where it'd be nice to select all four and set them all at the same time. Okay, 20 here. However, I was talking about the tool mode, and that's typically something you can do. Maybe I can show you this because it's interesting to show you that tool is really just regular GD script that you'll use for your games. So I'm going to add a margin container script, and I just want a new, for example, export integer var. It's how you write it, margins, and it's going to be 20, and it's going to set the margins. So I'm creating a setter, a value that when I save here, I have to save the panel scene as well. So when I save the script, if I go back to the margin container, at the top we'll have a margins value. And when we modify it, thanks to the setGet keyword, it's going to call the setMargins function. So I'll add it. And when you're creating a setter, you always need to pass in a value argument. And so you set first the variable to the value, or you do this last. But more importantly, you can use this value to modify other things, like it's going to be custom constants, margin right. Okay, so for this, when you have a property that uses a path, you can call the set function on any node, and it lets you set a string property. In our case, it's going to be custom constant slash margin underscore right, and it's going to be set to value, duplicated 3 times. For left should be, I call it top and bottom, right? Okay, so top and bottom. And normally, now we have this saved. You can, it's a bit hard to see, but you can see both the margins value, the variable, and the custom constants. And normally when I do this, it doesn't call it. Why? Should change the margins. Very important. No, normally when you do this, does it work if I do this? Reset to 0. I tried to show you something interesting and it doesn't work. No, it does set salvage margin. Maybe it's the path, then that's not right. Do I need a colon before it? Or can I access it actually? Let's see. Margin container. Actually, the variables are directly accessible, so. Alright, let's see if I do this. Margin right equals value. Should work then. Nope. I forgot to add the tool keyword at the top. There you go. If you don't add tool, the script will not run in the editor, so it doesn't change anything. Yeah. You can see my margins changed to 54 from before. Let's see. I'll close and reopen the scene. See if it works. You see the margins at the bottom are at 38. Yeah, so now look at this. If I set the margins, they update in real time, all 4 of them. The only problem now is it seems when I'm trying to change margin right like this, it doesn't work. Let's add the tool keyword again. All right, and back to full rect. So now I have one value I can change to modify all 4 margins. So you can see if I update it, scroll over it, it's going to increase all 4 margins at the same time. That was just to show you the tool keyword. And yeah, thanks Alexander, I hadn't noticed at first the tool keyword missing. Alright, so now we have our interface. We have our 2 buttons. I should name them a bit better. Create for the tile set, and we're going to have an add collision. We'll see if we have time to do both, but at least the create part we should have the time to. So that should be all good. I want the 2 buttons to be, they should be flat. Hold on, where is it already? Flat, here. Flat so that they fit Godot 3's interface. So all these elements are flat, like they don't have the button background. That makes it bump a bit. I don't have icons ready either, but you can. The good thing is you can design your interface through the editor. So you can add your icons for the various buttons very simply. You drag and drop the even if you have an SVG texture or any sprite, you drag and drop it in the icon slot. But right now we're good to go. I'll just rename the nodes create button and add collision button. So this way, from the code, they are easier to find. So already as it stands, normally if I go to the project settings and to the plugins tab, you can see Tileset Maker already. It's inactive. We won't activate it right now because there's no code inside of it, but we can, Godot already recognizes the script and we can already activate it. So with the panel done, we're going to save and head back to the plugin script. I'll close the other classes. And now we'll want to load our interface. So we're going to store our interface as a member variable of the plugin for the entire execution of the plugin, as long as it has to exist. So for so long as the editor is open, we want to store it in memory and to retain its state. So we'll create a member variable like normal for this, call it interface. And I tend to initialize my variables like this, just to know that it's not been initialized and it has to store an object. This object is going to be our panel here. So we can set it like this. We'll load the panel.tscn. Note that when you load, I think is not relative, but if I do, like, for example, preload panel.tscn, it's going to load it directly from the directory. However, if I use load, if I recall correctly, you have to use a full path like this. So you'll right click in the file system doc on any node and copy the path to get the full path. And also now in Godot 3 you have the ability to you get auto-completion for paths as well, which is quite convenient. So let's do this. We'll create an instance of our interface like this, and we're going to add it to Godot's interface. So we have to call add control to doc here, and this one you have to pass in a member of an enum. You have the doc slots that represents the various slots you can see here in the docs position picker. You have 8 slots. So you have the left side, the right side, and then you have top left, top right, bottom right in all cases. So this is BL, UR, etc. BL, bottom left, UR, upper right. That's how it works. We're going to use the left slot, and the file system tab is already taking the top right. I just want to check if I set my scene here. Yeah, you can see when you wrap, you lower the size of the file system. One issue is you don't have access to the files as easily, but I guess this will do for now. So we'll use right, bottom right. And we have to pass in the control node, the scene, our interface, and it's the interface variable. So we create an instance of our scene and we add it to the editor docs. Now we also have to clean it up here, and Taman's asking if it's going to be uploaded. Yes, it'll be available for replay. So we have to clean up the state every time after we I guess that if you go back to the project manager like this, Godot is still open and it still keeps stuff in memory, but it's going to clean the interface and load it again when you load the next project. So because of this, you have to remove the interface from the docs yourself. Godot is not going to manage them for you. So we'll do remove from control from docs, and we just have to pass in the interface that we registered. And finally, we want to free our node, just like normal, because I guess that Godot is not managing this for us either. So we have to manually free them from memory. All right, and with this, now that's all we need to have our interface appear right there. So I'm gonna go to the project settings, plugins tab, and activate Tileset Maker. Let's see. Active. Oh, I chose the wrong panel. Okay, so we have the scene's name, and we have our two buttons, create and add collisions. Okay, so that was the wrong slot. I said right bottom right. No, it's left bottom right. So it goes right here on the bottom left side of the interface. And with this, maybe panel is not the greatest of names. Can I set the title? Well, I guess that should be the scene's title. Let me see. I add scene tabs here. Okay, so yeah, this should be this node's name that it's using for the doc. So instead of panel, I'm going to call it Tileset Maker. Save. The only thing is, I'm not sure it refreshes the interface when you deactivate and activate it again. Yeah, you can see it didn't delete this panel. Maybe it's the way I freed the memory, I'm not sure. But now we have Tileset Maker at the right position in the bottom. Yeah, because it did not exit the tree. I don't know if there's a function to check when the plugin is deactivated. Let's see. Well, I have to look in the reference for this. Maybe we have a function here. Handles, window layout. Has main screen. I'm not sure. So I don't have a ton of experience making add-ons, by the way, but we wanted to do a collab with Games from Scratch to talk about the tool mode because it's very powerful. And so I figured it was a good way to get started. I don't see over forwarding, update overlays, nope. Set window layout, handles. I don't see something that'd be like kill it when you deactivate the add-on. So in those cases, if you want to reset a bit the interface, you press Ctrl-Shift-Q to go back to the project manager, and you reopen it like this. And now the wrong panel from the right side is gone, and we have Tileset Maker here. The buttons will not do anything for now, we can only click them. But now it's time to code the actual add-on. So it's going to work this way. We need to have a scene open, and if we do, we're going to pass in a folder in the Addon Script. It's going to grab all the images in that folder and create sprite nodes in the scene that we have open. So let's, did I not? Yeah, I have my tiles scene here. It should have this, hold on, it should be, can I just have to move this Docker again. All right, it's back to normal. By the way, is the sound okay? So let's go back to our plugin script. Now we don't have to put all of our plugins logic in there. We can split it in other scripts, GZ script files that will load on the fly, or we can use our scenes and put the scripts on certain buttons and all. As this is a small add-on, we're going to more or less put everything in one file, but just know that you can at any time like have I'd say constant variable, I don't know, tileset splitter, let's say something like this, constant tile splitter, and you're going to load, or I guess preload. You can do something like this. I think you have to preload when you use constants, but you're going to preload a GD script file, and then you create an instance of it. Okay, and you can use it. You can put some functionality in there, give it a public interface, and use it from this plugin script. Again, just like any GD script file. Now, we're going to do two things. For one, we need to get signals from the buttons, so that when we click a button, we can call a certain function. So I'll do this here. You can get the buttons. Hold on, I have to open the scene, otherwise we don't get completion. This one. So now if I write the sign, I guess, yeah, so one reason I was talking about the fact you can add scripts in there, like we could have a tileset maker script, I guess, in our add-on, and the reason is for auto-completion. So now when the ready function, I should be able to do this, yes, and I can get auto-completion for the scene. So we're going to grab its create button and add collision button. Maybe we can store the container, the VBox container here, and we'll get the nodes from the container. .get node, and it's going to be create button and add collision button. And for both of these, we're going to connect them, connect the button down signal. So when the user clicks the button, I'm going to connect this to the tileset maker object. It's a bit of interface, so it's not the best way to do it, but it's going to work for this example on create button, button down. And well, I'll duplicate the line and replace create button like that with add collision button, selection only, replace all. Should be good. Yes. So now we have two functions that are going to get called back thanks to the signals. We have to create them, one for each of the buttons. So on when the user clicks the create button, we'll probably we'll call get files from get the files from the folder with a path like that, and we're going to call a create tiles function with the list of image file paths. Maybe we're going to grab the paths using a directory object, and then we'll create the tiles in the currently open scene. All right. Okay, and on add collision button down, for now we don't have to bother about this. First we have to make the tileset creation work. Let me see, can the add-ons be constructed using visual scripting? I don't know, but you have to check. Normally, you should be able to have a GD script file and a visual script file communicate with one another. So that should be, maybe you need to have, like in the plugin.config file, you have to write a script file name, and you'd have to try. I'm not sure you can call a visual script file, but maybe you can. But in worst case, you can call the plugin.gd file or whatever GD script you want, and from this script you just defer the call to the visual script file if you really want to use it. Normally, yeah, you can have the, I mean, again, you code it exactly the way you code your game. So I want this to be a tool script as well. All the scripts that you're going to have run in the editor, and where you need to have some functions like ready, connect, things like these, when you need to manipulate existing nodes, you will have to use the tool script in general. If you make a script more as a library of functions to which you're going to pass objects, then you don't need it to be a tool script, because it's going to be called directly with a set of data and it's going to return the result. But here we are directly manipulating the scene, so we need the tool keyword for it to run in the editor. So I'll fold what we have done here, and now we need two functions: get image file from folders, get image files from folder, and create tiles. For the first one, it's going to take a path, and we're going to do a whole lot of stuff, because getting files from a directory in Godot, you need some safety checks, because you can end in unending loops. You cannot use a for loop, I think, the way it's done right now. And for now, to be honest, I haven't worked with the file dialog system, like opening files like this, opening something, I think it's called Modulo in Godot. So opening it on top of the interface. So I'm not going to try it, because I'm pretty sure we're going to have some issues. But for now, we'll have our folder path here, and it's going to be the tiles folder. Like this. And then, you can code more interface to have the user pick the files from a, I mean, you should be able to use the how is it? Yeah, I guess it's the directory browser or something like that to open the files. It's just that I don't have experience with it yet. So we need this, and we need the create tiles like that, and we're going to pass as well. Let's work on get the image files from the folder. So for this one, we have to use the, I guess it's directory. Yeah, we have to use the directory class. We have to do a whole lot of stuff. So let's see. We have our folder path here, and I'll call it folder path as well. So we're going to create a new directory object, because this is the one we'll use to browse the directory, and we're going to have folder dot, let me check the directories interface. Don't know it by heart yet. I think it has an open function. So you have to open the path with the directory object, like that. But on top of that, when you call open, it's going to return either something like OK, or it's going to return an error. So we want to store the status in a variable. And then here we're going to run some checks. Like for example, so if open status is not okay, this is a global constant, this one. To check for errors, we're going to return from the function. We don't want to try to get files or something like that. If the path is wrong, later we're going to add a while loop, and because of that, the program can get stuck. So if it doesn't open, we're going to quit the function. Now we can also look at the error we get, and in the various cases we can print some message and later maybe add a pop-up panel to say there's this that's wrong, please like the folder path is wrong or whatever. But if you add a file dialog, hopefully this should not happen. Just to show you how you do error handling in those cases, you have to check, I think it's in the open function, it should tell us returns one of the error codes constant defined in global scope. And then if you go there, you can see an enum called error. It has OK, which we are using. And then you have specific errors like file can't open, file can't read, things like these. And normally file not found could happen. File is in use, I think should have file already in use here. You have lots of things like these, so some more or less generic errors. And you have to check when you want to do error handling in your plugin. Basically, like you do if the open status is error unavailable, for example, whatever, you print some info unavailable, and you do an if elif like this, and the last one you put an else with the error code like this, and you're going to print open status directly. It will give you an integer, and then you will be able to go back to the global scope class and check which error this is, so you can add some new error handling block. Okay, so for now we'll just print the error code if we get one, and as we get errors, because if you make mistakes in your code you can get those types of errors, or if the path is wrong you can get these, and you will want to see why something does not work, and then add some error handling code every time. Okay, but the basics is if the folder does not open, okay, you return from the function, you stop it. Yeah, you can use not equal instead of the not keyword. It's the same thing, except this is more for, you tend to use not equal like this to compare values like integers, floats, and all that stuff, and not to negate a condition with a boolean, for example, or anything that works with, that has to do with boolean values. So let's see. You can use map. There's a map function in Godot. Okay, interesting. If you have a code example, because I don't want to start researching it on the stream. Here's how it works, at least the basics of it. We're going to initialize our folder with, why don't you give me completion? Hold on. We initialize the folder with list dir begin and list directory and, like this. So this initializes the directory. Okay, so we call folder.list dir begin like this, and I think it's in this function that you set it to ignore some paths. Let's see. list, there, begin. Yeah, you can see you have two arguments, skip navigational. If you set this to true when you initialize the directory, it's going to skip the dot and double dot elements. So this dot and double dot, which is current folder, parent folder, which it's going to find in the directory otherwise. So we can pass in true to say skip the navigational elements. And at the end, we'll have to call list directory end, like this. And in between the two, we can loop over the directory. Now I think it's in the directory as well. You have the get next function that you have to call to get the next element in the directory. So the first file is going to be folder.get next. And you can use this to check if the directory is empty. If the first file is an empty string, then you don't have any file. You can print the directory is empty. It was folder path, like this. And you return an empty list because we didn't find any files in there. You were talking about, sorry, I can't read your name, but you were talking about the match expression. So yeah, instead of if-else, you can use a match block for error handling like this. The problem is with match blocks is when you do this, it adds an extra level of indentation. So it's up to you to choose which one you prefer. In general, when they are at the first level of indent, I tend to use match, but not always. But it's good to know. So, yeah, for the I thought you had a way to iterate over the directory. I think it's possible to use a for loop like this, but you have to convert the elements you get in the directory to an iterator, and yeah, I'm not sure how you do this. But I meant you can't do in Python. You could do for element in os.list directory, and boom, you just have to do this, and it does all the error handling and all that stuff for you, pretty much. Okay, so if you don't have a file in the directory, you exit. Then we have to create a while loop. So while, maybe we won't call it first file name, like that. So while the file name is not nothing, we're going to loop over the directory. So we're going to get the next element every time. So here's how it's going to work. We have a directory with a number of files in it, and every time in the loop, it's going to look at the next file until it reaches the end. When it reaches the end of the directory, we don't have any elements to consume, to find, so in that case, getNext is going to return an empty string, in which case we want to exit the loop. Okay? But if we get a file, we are going to append it to a list that we don't have, and I'll put it at the top. So var file paths. It's going to be an empty array or an empty list, like that. And every time if we get a file, we're going to append it to the file paths array. Append file name. Now we have to be careful with one thing. If we go back to the file system and we go to the tiles folder, we only see the PNG images. But if I go to my file browser and I go back to the tiles folder, what do we see? The import files. So we have to skip them. We only want the pictures that we are going to generate tiles from. That's why if you use the file dialog, it's going to be a bit more convenient because you don't have to, you can filter files out of the file dialog directly. You can see it when you open a scene, for example. You can only have certain types of files that you can open, and it's not going to show anything else. So we will only append the file path if it is not an import file. So if file name ends with the .import, we're going to continue on the loop and get to the next item. The last thing we have to check for is if file name is empty, then we'll break out of the loop. The reason is when you are using a while loop, I think, do you have do while in Godot? No, you don't have do while. When you are working with the while loop, the problem is you change the element for the condition inside the loop, so it will finish running the entire cycle before it evaluates the first line again, the condition. And our problem here is we get the next file, but we don't get out of the loop until we reach the end, and the empty item, we're going to append it to the list, which is something we don't want. Now we append the file name alone for now, but we can do a bit more than this. We're going to append the file complete path relative to the resource element. So we have our folder path. We only need to format it like this. I'm going to, you can do it this way with string interpolation. You do how can I, modulo sign s / modulo sign s. It's going to convert the arguments to string if necessary. A modulo sign here after the string, and you place your arguments in there. So we have folder path first and then the file name. This is equivalent to doing this folder path plus / like this plus file name in our case. Either one's fine. We can use this one, it's a bit clearer, maybe like that. So we're going to append the full path, and when we're done with the loop, we end the process with the directory. I think that should be all we need to do in there. We ignore imports, and if we don't have a file, we break out of the loop. Okay, and we return the file paths from the function. And that way, I think it's a more or less pure function. It's going to get some data in, and it outputs something else, and it doesn't modify the state of the program. So when we store the image file paths in our onCreate button down, we can now print them just to see if we got everything right. Hold on, I've got to get some water as well. All right. We have one function we can test out. I'll just read the chat. Nothing. Okay. That should, there's one thing we have to check for as well. Now that I think of it, there's no subdirectories in there, but we can also do this. Hold on. Can add if I think it's no, it's folder dot current is directory. Hold on. Yes, this one. So you have a function on the directory class to see if the current element is a file or if it's a directory. So this way you don't get the directory paths, you don't store them. Dot current is directory. You're going to continue as well. and you're not going to store it in your file paths. Now if we save this, we have everything. Let's see, we connect okay in the ready function. Let's see, I'll open the debugger. Should be all right. So click the create button, nothing happened. I'll just go back to the project manager, reopen this. Wow, doesn't open. Okay, crashed. Right. I don't know why it crashed, but okay, fine, we're back. We have our tileset maker here. I'm going to click create. So we have an error, non-existent function directory in base panel. What did I write? Directory.new, like this. And yes, we also have to do one thing, add a base scene, main scene, because otherwise it will not open the scene when we start, and we can't save scripts if we don't have a scene open. Okay, if I click create, non-existent function in panel. Did I forget folder somewhere? Yeah, here. It's just I mean, you always have a few syntax errors when you do things like these. Okay, so now it did not return anything from the function. Return file paths. Is the folder path wrong? No, it's good. So for now, it didn't find the images. Let's print file name on every tick and see. Background.png, background.png.import. Hold on, it should continue in the loop until the end. Let's see if this is causing trouble. It goes through, it finds background.png, and then it breaks. Hold on, what's that? Okay, now it finds them all. Ah, I wrote not equal. Okay, my bad. I wrote not equal instead of equal for the condition, checking if the file name was empty. Alright, so let's click again. And now it should print, it prints all the files it found, and it prints the list of resource paths. And there's no import path, it seems everything ends with PNG. So very good. The function works. Great. I'll remove the print here. So now we have a list of file paths. We can create the tiles. Hey Jill. Churo's asking how to get started with Godot. Yeah, the best place is to go to the help menu and you go to the online documentation, Q&A, and community tabs. Community, you'll find people on Discord, Facebook. You can ask questions. You have the ability to search the code reference from here. You have all the nodes, all the functions right in the editor, and the online docs for some tutorials to get started. Then I'd say check Kids Can Code. It's the best channel for beginners right now. I'd say Chris works on the docs, so he does a pretty good job. All right, now we can write the create tiles function. I'll fold get image files from folder, mouthful full, and we'll create the tiles. So to create the tiles, we must have the tile scene open, and we'll loop through the file paths that we have. We'll create, we'll load them into textures. So it'll be easier to show you if I create a sprite in my scene. So we're going to do exactly what I just did. Create a sprite. We load some texture into the texture slot. It's just that we're going to do all this from the code. So we open an image file in there. Then we're probably going to move it something like that. And when we create the next one, we're going to move it to the side. And that's about it. We're going to create a list of nodes. But there are a few things to know when you do this in Godot, because there's a slight difference from creating it in-game, although it's mostly the same code. It's just that when you add the node, you need to give it an owner if you are working from the editor. So it works this way. We're going to, let's just say, create a new sprite. So sprite, it's going to be a new sprite node like this. And we need to get the root node of the scene is going to be I think it's in get tree dot get current. Hold on, it's current scene. Open scene. Get open scenes. There's something to get. There we go. Get edited scene root. You have it from the editor interface and scene tree. You have it from the scene tree. So to get the scene tree, you call the get tree function, and then you can call what was it already? Get edited scene root. So this will make sure that we are getting the root node here from this current scene that we have open, regardless of where we are in the interface. It's going to use the scene. And so we're going to create a new sprite node, and then we can add it as a child of our root. So root.addChild. I'm going to add the sprite. Now the only difference is I think we have to do sprite.set owner. How was it? I think I should have it around here. I think that's how you do it. You write set owner and you want the owner to be the root. When you are adding nodes in the editor, you have to do this, otherwise it will kind of get, like, you will see the sprites in the scene, but when you save the scene, they will be lost. They won't be saved, and you won't see them in the scene tab either. So you have to add a node in a plugin, you just have to add this command, set the owner. Okay, I can show you that this works if we just have this, even if we are not making use of our image file paths. When we click the create button, now you can see a sprite in the scene. Jill said, I really have to work on a tileset editor someday. Yeah, from something that's right in Godot. I guess if Moreno made the auto tile feature, you could do it as well. So yeah, note that now with my create button, I can create as many sprites as I want as well. So you can imagine the power. You can create nodes, you can select nodes, you can get selected nodes, you can manipulate them, you can change any property. So with add-ons, you can do a lot of things. I think you can even draw in the interface, right? So you can create custom controllers the way you want. Really powerful, really powerful. And again, all that with pretty much, I mean, the code, like running through directories, getting containers and all that stuff, it's something you do in your games in GDScript, there are just small differences. So overall, you can create plugins and you could almost integrate them as tools in your game. You can create an add-on that creates an extended level editor in Godot, and then you can put it in your game and distribute it to the players, right? That's something that's very good in Godot. All right, so now we have the base to create one sprite. We need to create lots of them. We're going to use a for loop for that. So for path in image file paths, we are going to create new texture. I think it's called texture or image texture, like this, .new. When you create a sprite, and let me do this here. When you create a sprite and you select new image texture, you can see here, you can see the name of the classes. So you have large texture and all that stuff. We have a list of small sprites, so we want to create image texture resources that we are then going to assign to this texture slot. So you do it this way. You create a new image texture, and you're going to load like this texture dot load, and you're going to load the path. It's an image, so Godot will know how to load the image in the texture. And I think that's it for the texture. We only have to do this. So this is equivalent to clicking here, load, and then you go find the file, and it's going to create an image texture for you. I will create the sprite in batches in the loop as well. So the sprite, we're going to create a new one on every tick of the loop. We're going to set its texture to the texture element, like this. So it's going to assign it here. And we're going to do a few things. We're going to set its position, and that's it. Position and name, maybe. Sprite.name. Do I have to go through set name in here? That should be in the node or object. Let's see your properties, my dear. Nope, so it should be in object. Maybe have to check which element has a name. Okay, let's search for. Okay, it's on the node. I have set name, but I don't have. Okay, we don't have direct access to the name. Ah, I know why. Yeah, we don't have direct access to the name because of this. I guess it has to call the setter regardless. Strange. I'd imagine we had it as a property, but okay, we can call set name, and we're going to get the name from the path. So can we split a string? String.split. Split the string by a divisor string and returns an array, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we can take, can create a name from the path dot split. I'm going to split with slashes, and can I get the last index this way? Yeah, the way Godot's tileset creation works is really inconvenient. You have an add-on for that by Vnen, that's very good, George Marcus, to work with the tiled map editor. Now, as there are people working on the tile map editor and improving it, it's also worth investing in Godot. And as we can create an add-on, as soon as we have a convenient add-on to make it, it's okay. Something where you just click, creates the tile set, and you don't have to think about it. So let's see. I have to see if the I'll break here, and no, I'll break after the first loop. Set name to name, and I just want to see if you can do this in Godot, because I know it works in Python, but I'm not sure it's something you can do here. It works. Let's see. Problem is we have to remove PNG. What? Do we have slash in the name? Oh, we have .png. Okay. Okay, so we'll use the file path. Dot remove. Okay, so a bit dirty, but we can do things like these. Okay, it works. You can see it already assigns the texture to the sprite, by the way. It's pretty much working already. Now we just need to remove this and do something else. If I just use this little loop, it's going to stack all the sprites on one another, making the scene maybe a bit hard to read or hard to check that everything is in there. So we're going to move them by changing their position. So sprite.position is going to be equal to some vector 2. So now, when you are creating sprites, I want to... when you're creating a tile set, Godot allows for multiple tile sizes in the same tile map, but it doesn't handle them very well, because if you have a tile that's too big, it's going to just take one cell, but it's still going to be bigger than the cell. So I recommend not using it, to be honest. When you are creating tile maps, you're better off having all tiles the same size. And then in a good tile map editor, you can select multiple times at the same time. Say you have a big rock that takes 4 tiles. Just select all 4 tiles, you put them on the game. Having larger images is going to make the UX inconvenient, because the tile still takes only one cell, so it overlaps the other next to it. So I recommend only using one tile size all the time, and if you use pretty much any engine out there, that's kind of how it works. One tile size per tile set. Okay, if you have 2 separate tile sets, you may use 2 different tile sizes, although again I would recommend having just one size for the entire game, one template, and you do everything the same way. And if you look at old games, you go back to Zelda: A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo, that's how it is. The trees are big, but they just take multiple tiles. So we're going to find the tile size from the first image. Okay. For this, we have to load the image before the for loop, so we have to store it here. Let's say tile size, it's going to be a vector 2, and we'll create a new image. So var first image is gonna be, how do we get it? We're going to do a load, no, image.new, like that. First image.load, we're going to load image file path 0, the first one. And then if we go to the image class, normally we have some way to get the image, there we go, get. You can get the rectangle, height, and width. Exactly what we need. So we're going to load the image, and then tile size. We can create it directly down here. For the tile size, we'll call first_image.get width, followed by first_image.get height, like this. And now to position our sprites, we can use the tile size. but we need some index value. So let's do this. We'll add two variables. Index starts at 0 and an row size, let's say. Let's do this, something like that. So we'll make a grid of sprites. In the index, after every loop tick, we need to increment it by 1. So for the position, we'll set it to tilesize.x times index modulo row size. I don't remember, I think modulo comes first, but I'll just add parentheses just in case. And for the y-axis, it's tilesize.y times, we're going to divide the index by row size, and we convert it to an integer value, and this should work. It's going to place the tile really next to one another, so we can try this. I think it should work at the moment, the code. Let's save, click create. Boop, I have all the sprites. And I want to do two things. First, I'd like to offset them so they are inside the scene block, and maybe add some gutter between the sprites. So let's go back there. I need to add tile size divided by 2. Like this. So for now we don't have a way to delete all the tiles. Maybe we can add a button for this. Save, click create, everything's in there. And now they are placed at the origin. All good. I guess that's fine the way it is. The only thing that's weird is, this is floor, so it skipped the background. And it places tiles in here. How come? So the naming is wrong, and it skipped one. It skipped one. Index starts at 0, so index plus 1 is equal to the array size. Let's see. Weird. Maybe array size doesn't work, so let's go with the length of the array. Oh, no, we're not going to add the tiles now. Assertion failed. Okay, so that's what I thought. It's missing the first image. Why is that? Is it because I used it here? Okay, so debugging time. Let's see. Starts with corner bottom left. So is it missing from... Okay, it's missing, so there's an issue. It's not with this function. It has to do with the previous one. So let's see, getting the image files from the folder. I think we skipped the first image somehow. So let's go back here and print image file path 0. It starts with corner bottom left. That's not right. I guess because the first one is not part of the loop. So we have to append it. File path dot append file name. That's why I really like Python's handles. Python's OS module handles files super well. It has a lot of more advanced features, but I love that the basics are quite simple and you don't have to do so much error handling and all. I wish we can have some more iterator objects, or objects that, well, in Python you can have an iter function in any object like that, double underscore iter, and use this to kind of call the next function on the element, or use a for loop with any class that you create. So you decide exactly how Python is going to pull the values from the object. And I wish we had a bit more of that in Godot at least. I mean, the way Python loops work with generators as well, and how is it called? List comprehensions. When you filter arrays with just an array and you put some conditions in there. It's very convenient. Anyway, not going to complain too much. It works well here. The only thing is you have to be careful that you always get the files right at the right time, and that you don't create infinite loops as well. Okay, so now I save, click create. First one should be background.png, and we want to append folder path plus slash plus this. Okay, and I get the background file. Okay, so we're good with this. Can go back to debug and create tiles. Okay, are we back? I think the internet went down for a few moments. Okay, so I've got to print the name here just to see what's happening, and should be good. Tile/background. Okay, when I do this, okay, let's make a few tests. Res. Out of index. Okay. So the last one should be 2. I thought that split would split multiple times in a row. Seems it does not. Let's see, divisor. True, max split equals 0. Normally it should return. It should return everything. It should split it in. It should split this slash as well. Substring split. One way we can do it is use rfind to find the last slash and then get the substring. If split does not work, I don't know. This may be a bug. This can't say why. Okay, so we'll use rfind, I guess. Okay, so we're going to find this element from the back. It's going to give us an index. And then we'll get a, I guess that's is it substr? Substring. And it's going to start from a given place. Do I have to pass in the length necessarily? Or does it have an R splitting from the back? But I don't think. I do have right as well, so I can return a string from the right. No, it doesn't have a real split function, because we would only split once in that case. Okay. So from the right side of the string, we want to start at the slash position +1. And that should be it. There we go, background.png. And we're going to split at the dot and get the first part. And we should get background. There we go. So the sprite names should be all right now. Okay, so the assertion is still failed. That's weird, because it seems to me... Okay, I have to... And we're going to print the index. 31.0. Ah, yeah, that's normal. So we'll leave our assert statement that in the end we've created as many sprites as we need. Let's see. No, this is good. Just want you, can you print index and print len image file path. We add one from the first. Yeah, so the index is going to be equal. Wow. Okay, the asset does not work, but index and image file paths are both at 31. I don't think you had to put parentheses around it. Okay. I'll have to check how the asset works exactly in Godot. In any case, the sprites should be good for now. If I uncomment these lines, no, not like that. I uncomment the two lines. Gonna remove all the sprites we have here. Okay, for the split thing, it was a bug then. We're all good, I guess. Let's click create, and we get lots of sprites. We have them all created. Every click gives me an error, but that's okay. Let's save the scene, close it, reopen it to see that everything worked. Seems good. We have all the sprites. Interesting, because it gives me an error with the file every time. What if I can click on the texture. The resource is inside the file. Maybe I did something wrong. Let me open the scene in an external editor just to see. Wow. Okay. I guess it's because I loaded the way I loaded the images is wrong. At least it's not what I expect, so let's clear this. Load background. What if I do this? Okay, you have to use the stream texture class. Alright, so let's do this. Okay, don't use image texture. Use stream texture instead, and it needs a load path. And when you load, it's going to set the path instead of loading the image and converting it to text. Alright, so let's go back. That's why the scene was a bit long to open as well. So it's going to be stream texture.new and texture.load this. Normally that should be all we need. So I'll close you, save, create. Whoa. What did I mess up? Let me see. Oh, come on, let me pull this. Interesting. Why did loading from the code did not work? So the load path is the path to the import file. Okay. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to load the textures the right way. Does someone know? Here. So load path, no, it shouldn't be this. Maybe I can just load the path directly, like this. And after one, we're going to break here, delete everything, and see if I get the first image right, at least. Yeah, okay. So you have to load, you don't have to create, okay, you don't have to, I created a texture object when I tried this last time, but as it was just with one object, you didn't see the speed difference, and now I think this should be right. So you can directly load the image from the path, and it will create the right resource for you. All good. It's even simpler now. All right. So, going back to the script, I remove the break statement, save, click create, and boom, we generate all the sprites for our tile set. There we go. All right. So all we have left is to add some collisions. We'll want to do something like this. We select nodes, we click add collisions, and everything has collisions. Now doing it is a bit more complex. I think we have to add static bodies for this. So honestly, I didn't try this. I didn't have time to try it yesterday. I had some appointments, but I think we have to do it like this. We create a static body, we add the sprite inside of it, like we're going to place the static body on the sprite at the right position like this. We set the sprite position back to 0, 0 like this, and we have to add a collision shape. I'd like everyone to share the same resource though. So we add a collision shape, 2D, we create a polygon, a rectangle, and we make it the size of the tile. So 64 by 64, like this. Normally, if all goes well, it should work. So that's what add collisions will do. I'm not sure how to best do it. Let's see. Okay, so I'll do the add collision to selected. All right. Add collision to selected nodes, and we'll get. How do we get the selection? Editor selection dot get selected nodes. I guess. Get the list of selected nodes. Okay. So the selection is going to be get editor selection dot get selected. Get selected nodes, like this. All right, so we can retrieve the selection of nodes, and for node in selection, what's these errors down there? I don't know. Okay, for each node in the selection, we want to create a new static body 2D. We want to create a collision shape 2D as well a bit later, but first the body. So the body's position is going to be equal to node.position. Then we'll set the node's position to 0 again. So because we're going to add the sprite as a child of the node 2D. Then we want to get the root. Okay. Let's copy this line. We'll add the body as a child, so the static body 2D. Let me think. I'm starting to feel a bit tired. Hey, Gabrielle. So I'm going to add the body and body.set owner as well. We have to do it straight away. It's going to be the root. All right. So we're going to add the static body, and we change the position of the sprite node. So, well, yeah, we'll just call it node for now. Node in selection. I think now there's the is keyword. You can check for the type, right? So if node is a static body 2D, you continue. Okay. And create a new static body. Set its position. We want to reparent the node, but first we need to add. So we add the body to the scene, and then node.set parent. I think it's in the node. Can you change the parent? Okay, let's go back up to the top. It's a big class. Maybe R, reparent, no. Remove and skip. Set parent, you don't have it. Set owner. Okay, let's see if set owner is enough. I'm not sure how you're supposed to change the parent. As node get tree. Because I can brute force remove the node, add it as a child of the body, and I guess that's what we'll do. But then you'll need some code for error handling. So hold on, how was it? It was remove. Okay, let's try setting the owner to body. Like this. And then we break here and we stop the loop. And we just try this. What does it say? Invalid call, get selected node. Okay, so get selected node in GScript native class. Yeah, I have to get the editor selection first. Get editor viewport. Where is it? Get editor interface. Editor interface. Get. Where do we get the editor selection? Okay, where is it? How do I get you, boy? I have to find a way to get the selection. Where is it? Hold on, get. Okay, interface. Editor plugin. Can get the interface from here. Let's see what else can I get. Ah. Can get the editor interface, but from there, how do I get the selection? Nope. Okay, so I can get the editor's interface. But what next? Does anyone know? It's add-on creation, so I showed the basics at the start of the video, and now I'm struggling to add the last feature. Just because I don't know how to get the node selection. So I know it's in editor selection, but I don't know where this object is stored. So if I go back to editor interface, I can get it from the plugin. edited scene root. Does not have members. Okay. Let's go to the scene tree now. Has methods, get the scene, node count. Because I can't directly type editor selection like it's like the input class or something and get the selected nodes. Problem is it doesn't say how do I get to it. Scene tree selection in the editor. Maybe there's an editor object. Editor interface plugin. Maybe in global scope. No, it has the servers and all, but it doesn't directly have the editor's things. I don't know, does someone else know? Editor interface.get selection. Okay. It's not in, was it in the reference? It's interesting because you have get editor, you have editor selection as well. Okay. Get selection. All right, perfect. It's strange that you have, well, I guess it gets the editor selection then, right? Okay, so editor interface.get selection. The thing is the completion doesn't work for some things like these right now. I don't know why, but well, doesn't matter too much. Okay, so normally now we have a selection. Now see, invalid non-existent function get selection in GD native class, GD script native class, and I'm calling it. Okay. Yeah, but the invalid call is here. I don't even get the object. I don't get the edit selection object right now. Okay, let's try again here. Yeah, I just get a bug. So I have editor interface.get selection. Don't think the syntax is wrong. I guess I have to go back to the plugin script and maybe call the get editor interface. Let me try this. Hold on, I'll get editor interface. Okay, that's upon entering the tree, so I'll have to deactivate and reactivate the plugin, I guess. Okay. It seems I can only get it from the get editor interface methods in the plugin, meaning I have to, at least for now, I'll pull this back to the plugin so we can finish the functionality on the stream. Okay, not the most elegant, but it'll do the trick. Because I don't know how to get the plugin object. I guess it's stored somewhere, but just don't know how to get it right now. And it's enough struggle for now. Okay. Selection, if it's, so we create the static body, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now we need to just connect the button. Hold on, how do I get the node from the interface? You had another function to retrieve the editor interface. Yeah, it's just that it's mostly undocumented. The ways to get the selection, to interact with the editor. So it's quite complex. So yeah. Let's see, now I have to connect my button back if I move everything there. Because I don't think I can... yeah, I can't get the editor interface from here. So, when I create the scene instance, is it okay if I do... let's do it this way. Container, I'm gonna copy paste it. I guess it'll be interface dot get node. I guess I have to get the root of the interface first. Get edited scene root. When I open my interface, it say okay node. Yeah, I guess it's going to be the root directly. Container equals interface and get node blah 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 blah, and we should be able to cut this and paste it in here. Kills the purpose of having two scripts a little bit, but let's see. How come it doesn't? Oh, come on. Doesn't connect to the plugin. Yeah, so for the interesting part, you'll have to look at the replay and look back at the start. Error calling method. Da, 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 da. Hold on. What am I? You shouldn't have to extend editor plugin to do that kind of things. Yeah, sure. So we have maybe a solution, create a new editor plugin. Yeah, but it means you have to create an editor plugin object for that. Well, for now I'll do the trick because it's gonna be more convenient than what we have here. Isn't there a memory leak if we do this? Okay, let's try this for now and just... Oh, come on. Let's see. Okay, so if I select two things, hopefully it'll work. I'm able to iterate. Okay, so get selection returns an editor selection, and it should have .get selected nodes. Okay. Let's see this. Reminds me of when I was working in HTML5 and Phaser, because most of the statements were long like that. Actually. Okay, seems it's kind of working now. So I can grab one here. It did create a static body that's placed where the sprites should be. So now the problem is the sprite's owner is not valid. Okay, let's see. So setting the owner like that is not how you reparent a sprite. Let's look online how to reparent a node on the QA site. Okay, you remove the child from the parent every time. Okay, so I guess you do, you're going to do node.getParent, remove child, the node, and then you do body.add_child, and you add the node back. Does it work? Let's see. This time it works, I guess. No, it did not. Okay, where did you go? Alright, I guess I'm going to delete, reopen the scene, and remove everything but 2 nodes, something like that. That should be enough. Save here, and try this function a few times. So if I do this, okay, now I have to set the owner again, I guess. Add child and node.setOwner body. It's weird that you have to do these 2 function calls for the node to still exist. Whoa. Okay, it completely messes up the scene, even if you don't save. Okay, so I'm going to hold on, recreate from scratch. Only keep a few nodes. Save. The sprite is here somewhere, but it's... Does the node still exist? Otherwise, I'd get some error. Do I have to do it in this order? Strange. Okay, let's see. You can see that the sprite gets lost. I know it's here, but it's like it's not really part of the scene. Because I guess if I save, I close and reopen, the sprites are gone. No idea why. Okay, set owner to the root. Let's try this. Okay, so I have to recreate the tiles, delete most of them, and okay, it works. So you have to set the owner to be the root. I don't know why, but it has to be like this. All right. And the last step is to create the collision shape. So the collision shape, I just have one issue, is sharing the same resource for everyone in the scene, if possible. Well, I guess at some point you might want to create custom collisions, but alright, let's try this. Okay, so we create a new collision shape, shape.set owner, it's gonna be the root again. Alright, and we want to have the body, a child, the shape. Okay, so we have the basics there. Now when we add the collision shape, we want to, how does it work? Create a rectangle shape 2D. Enter the shape we created and make the extents the tile size. So, add child shape, shape resource going to be rectangle. How is it called? Rectangle shape 2D. Going to create a new one. Yeah, Gilles says, I'm not sure you have to modify the owner in any case. The thing is, when I did not have set owner, the sprite just disappeared. So you have to call set owner to reparent it, I guess, right now. Okay, so let's create this 2D shape. Add child should do the trick. Even not removing it, or you still have to remove it. You have to remove it from the other, but let's try things this way. I think that's what I had. Okay. Go back here. Add collision, and you can see now adding the child doesn't. Okay, so it already has a parent. Then we're back to what I had before. That is, you remove the child from its previous parent. Click add collision, and the sprite is there, but it's lost if it doesn't have the owner. So you have to call set owner root for it to stay in the scene. Okay, we create a new shape. We create a new resource. I wouldn't want to create a new resource every time, but for now we're going to do this because it's going to be a bit simpler. Shape 2D, create a resource. It's a rectangle shape, and we'll change its extents property. It's going to be equal to tile size here. It's going to be global. So note that with the code we have is very like the add-on is not safe the way it is right now. It's very simple code, and then you have to solidify everything to make it work the way you'd expect. So shape resource that extends, like the tile size, for example, you need to store it as a global property. or as an add-on property. I don't know if there's something like this, because right now it's in the script and you close the editor, it's gone. If you don't create the tiles before you add the collisions, it's gone, or it doesn't exist. So you have to be careful with all that. Okay, so the resources extents are going to be this. And the shape property is going to be shape resource. It should be rectangle 2D, but it's fine. Okay. Body add child shape set owner root. At least this should give us a good base. Let's try this. We can't see it. Okay. Yeah, it works. Created the shape. Set its extents. Alright. So let me delete all that. Save the scene. Okay, so create all the tiles. Now I can select any number of shapes. Add the collisions. The shapes are too big now. What's the matter? 128, 128. Tile size is 64 by 64. Let's see. Considers that the first image is 128 times 128, is it? Ah, yes, okay, the extents have to be, I see the issue. The extents of the shape has to be half the tile size, because you're defining it as some kind of radius from the center. I forgot that. So tile size divided by 2. Alright. Now it should be good. Add collisions. Okay, this should be alright. They don't redraw instantly, but you can see you can select any number of nodes now, like that. Click add collisions, and boom, you have all of them with their collisions applied. And our Tileset generation tool is, I don't know everything about the way plugins work in Godot. There's not so many people, not so many persons who create plugins, but if you look at it, our plugin is 100 lines of code. 100 lines is not that much to automate something you're going to do many times over the course of your project, and this you must automate it. It's not available by default, but typically it's something that'll be very useful. Yeah, that's it for now. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them. I don't want to try and add some more features to it, because you can see that I've been struggling for the past 30 minutes with some things I just don't know how to do. This should land on GitHub anyway. I'm making it. So I'm making it for the Godot course, because now there is AutoTile in Godot. I wanted to show people, like, if we can stick to the existing tools in the engine, it's best, even if the tile map editor is very good and you may want to use it as well. I just wanted to show that you can make those tool scripts in Godot to, even if the tile set creation experience is not great, you can enhance the creation process or automate it completely. So that's interesting to see, because from there, when you generate the scene, if it changes, you can automatically ask Godot to convert it to a tile set. So let me show you. I'm going to do this. The name is going to be tiles.tires, I guess. And from there, let's create a new scene with just a tile map inside. Tile map. So you could automatically generate a scene like this with a tile map, and the tile set should be my tires file. Okay, and now you've got it. And the cell size should be set automatically, but in the meantime, yeah, you can see. So now we can use the tile editor in Godot. Do you know the process for users to create mods for the game you create? Rodrigo, that's a good question. This is not tool specific, okay, but it's quite complex actually, depending on what you want the users to make. If you want them to be able to create maps, you have to create a level editor in the game, and to create your own file format that your game is going to load and save. You can use JSON, you can use some tools like these. So that's one thing. But if you want the users to be able to code in the game, you have to sandbox the code in some way. You don't want them to modify the game sources. And in general, people use a tool or pattern called how is it called? Bytecode machine, or basically they create some kind of language that the game at the end, your game is going to be able to save and load again and pass. So you create classes that kind of find the logic in the bytecode that you wrote, that you stored, and when the users create scripts with a visual interface, and they save, it gets converted to that. So when you use something like if it's like changing the sprites, well, you create so Godot has when you work with scripts your own, let's go back somewhere, you use the resource path to store all the data or to access it. This corresponds to the game's environment. But you have another type of paths that starts with user : / and this one is a user folder saved for the game. That's, I don't know exactly where it's saved. I guess on Linux it'll be in the user. It's called a virtual machine. Thanks. So this user folder, you can store data in it. You can store images, and you can let the user through the interface like open a file from their computer, and then you're going to store it relative to this user path, so it will be stored somewhere on their computer. Because when the game is running, it's compiled, you may not be able to access the resource path anymore. The user, you store everything in that path, and yeah, then you have to basically code like you were coding your game, trying to load sprites from the resource path, but instead you load stuff from the user path. So you have to create, in any case, you have to create custom code for everything, but that's the base of the logic. So if it's just changing the sprites, you create an interface with some buttons, load the sprites, remove the sprites, or something like that. When someone clicks load sprite, you open a file browser, you let them choose the sprites. It's a bit like what we have in this add-on, basically. You find the sprite nodes in your game, and you change the texture. Any other question? So yeah, what I was talking about is you have to create a virtual machine if you want the users to be able to code in your game in a safe way, so that they can't cheat and they can't modify the game's source code. And they have tools as well, visual tools that help them code in a simple way. Talking about user creating maps, it would be cool to have, when you create a map, you can upload it somehow to the cloud, so the players can play the modded maps. Yeah, so then uploading and managing HTTP connections, everything that has to do with the server is specific to the platform you're using. If you want to use the Steam cloud, it should have an API and you must use it. I don't know if there's an implementation in Godot. There should be, because there are some people who already use Steam. And if you want to do it with your own server, then it depends on your server, right? It depends on what you have exactly, functions you have access to, or yeah. I'm not sure how. I know that you can do it from Godot. There's already some tools to do network connections, but I don't know how exactly. All right, so it seems there are no other questions. I'll put this code on GitHub. It's going to be open source, same thing as part of the Dan the Rabbit project. Yeah, maybe makes me think that the make your plugins documentation is really not that great. It's missing a lot of stuff right now, so it'd be good to work on it at some point. Thank you kindly for watching. Okay, so you have a Godot Steam repository on GitHub by Mavhad. There you go. So you can get access to the Steam cloud and I guess achievements and all that stuff and the community features. That said, what time is it? Okay, it's soon noon. Thank you kindly for joining, and yeah, there's going to be more videos coming. Tomorrow there's a tutorial coming out. So yeah, I'll try to do a few streams before going to Japan. I'm going in a month and a half, and to produce content as well. I must say I'm tired, so it's a bit hard lately. But thank you for joining. See you in the next one. If you have a request or suggestions for streams, don't hesitate. You send me a message. And yeah, have a good day. Bye-bye. That said, I forgot. I need to stop the stream here. So see you in the next one. Bye-bye.